Welcome back to my PC flipping series. This is episode 5, and what I do in this series is I build and sell computers for a profit, and I take you along the journey from week to week so that you can hopefully learn some things and maybe even follow along yourself. So right now I want to explain to you what I'm going to be doing in this episode, and it's going to be a little bit different than some of my other episodes, and the reason for that is because if you watched episode 3, which you might not have because it didn't get very many views, so I'll explain in a second. But if you did watch that episode, you'll remember this computer, which hopefully I remember to put on screen, and you'll remember that it had some problems and that it was having random shutdowns, and I couldn't figure out why in that episode, and I had to postpone listing it. Well, it's been about 3 weeks since that episode went live, and I've been prioritizing other things over working on that computer, but it's time that I actually finally do something about it and fix the problem. For those of you that don't know, I actually did do some troubleshooting on this computer whenever I first built it. In episode 3, I mentioned that the first thing that I thought whenever I saw these random shutdowns was that it was the power supply, and I switched the power supply out, but it didn't fix it. And so that led me to have to dig a little bit deeper to figure out what the problem was. And so since that episode, I have actually diagnosed the issue. It's surprisingly something with a graphics card, which surprised me because this was actually my personal graphics card for the last 2 years. And from what I can tell, it's just having thermal issues, and once it overheats too far, it will just shut down, which is actually a good thing because that's a safety measure to make sure that the card doesn't actually break. So at least the card isn't breaking, but it's still not usable with this kind of problem. So if I'm gonna sell this computer, I have to do something which will lower the thermals drastically. And luckily, thanks to some reporting from other people who have also had the same problem on this graphics card, all it seems to be that I'll need to do is a quick repaste and putting some thermal putty in place of the current thermal pads. Now, if you don't know what thermal putty is, that's fine because I didn't either. I'll put a little card on screen, but it's basically kind of something similar to thermal pads, but you can just kind of put as much of it as you want wherever you want instead of being limited to the specific thickness of pads that you buy. So in my opinion, hopefully this will be a little bit better than buying thermal pads. But yeah, as long as there's no other updates between now and then, I'm going to cut to the footage now. Alright, so good news. Someone is coming to pick up this 011 Vision computer, and I just took out my game drive from it, and now we're installing Windows. So also I felt like it might be valuable for me to show some of the things that I'm going to be selling this computer with. So first of all, we've got just some manuals like the SSD manual, random stuff that really they're probably never going to use, like this, like drivers for the motherboard, which you could just install online, and then like it's just some cards that came with the parts that I ordered. But the important stuff is this box right here full of screws and other stuff that came with the case, the SATA cable, the M.2 screws, the Wi-Fi adapter, a power cord, extra PCIe slot covers, and then the stickers. You can see I got a Ryzen 7 one, the one that came with the RAM, and then some that came with the motherboard. So yeah, that's everything I'm going to be selling with this as well. It is 1500. An interesting story there is that the guy that bought it, he was actually on a GTX 1080. He said that he always loved the 011s after they first came out, and whenever the 011 Vision came out, he really wanted one, but he just couldn't find a good deal on a computer with one. And then whenever he saw mine pop up on Marketplace, he was just like amazed, and so he bought it right away. It's really cool to hear that. It makes me feel kind of good that I was able to give that guy basically exactly what he wanted. Once again, it only took 6 days to sell, which is definitely an outlier for builds that I make in this price class. And I think something that I've learned from this is that it's definitely worth it to build in high-end cases, even if it costs a little bit more, just because of the fact that it'll sell so much faster. I was kind of expecting that the next thing I'd be recording is something along the lines of, oh, everything's working now, it's all fixed, and I'm going to get into the benchmarks and then list the computer. That is not what happened. So as you saw there, I repasted the graphics card, and I was quite enthusiastic that that would fix the problem. And I installed it right back into the computer, and guess what? Exactly same problem. Not even the same problem. It was actually overheating more than before, which was not the most motivating result, but it has been a week since then, and I've just decided that that's it. It's this case. I was right in episode 3 whenever I said this case was probably not good enough for this card. Now, I do kind of think that the internals might be a little bit too good for this case. I really just need to use it in a build, so I'm going to say whatever and use it in this one. So I made the decision to just throw a 3070 in there, swap the CPU out for a 3700X, which will be a little bit weaker and a little bit of a better pairing with the 3070, and swap the NVMe out for a 1TB instead of a 2TB. Now, unfortunately, that's also messed with basically everything else I was planning to do this month, but that's just how it goes sometimes, and I'm going to have to make the best of it. I'm going to be honest, I've already swapped out all the components I just mentioned I would be swapping, but since we're doing a 3070 now and everything's kind of completely different, I am going to put some benchmarks up on screen. They're going to be in 1440p, but I'll show the numbers from 1080p as well. Alright, so now it's time for deals of the week. If you look here, I have gotten a ton of deals this week, and this isn't actually all of them, which I will explain as I go. I'm just going to put the prices of everything on screen. I'm not even going to try to mention the prices of all these individual little pieces, because that would just take way too long. So the first thing I got here is this 011 Dynamic Evo, and it's in black, and it's also in great condition, just like the one that I picked up in the last episode. Here alongside that, on Amazon, brand new, I picked up 2 of these PCIe cards, which I've used in the past, and they're basically for motherboards like this one over here, which don't have a USB-C header for some reason. Then I also picked up 2 of these ARGB and fan hubs just because I'm in need of more of them. And then likewise, I also picked up a bunch of fans because I just needed more. But like I just mentioned, I also got this motherboard on Amazon Warehouse, and it's a Rockstrix B550F Gaming Wi-Fi 2, which I plan to use for a higher end build that I do this month. And additionally to that, something that I don't even have here because it didn't come in the original packaging, and I've actually already used it in a build, which I have yet to show off on this channel, is also a Gigabyte B550 UD-AC, which I got at the same time, also from Warehouse. But again, I can't show it right now because I've already used it in the build that I'm going to be showing in next week's episode. And likewise, I got an RM850, and I got this on eBay in a pack of 2. The other one's in a build right now, which I can't show. And this is a pretty common theme because for CPUs, I got 2 Ryzen 7 5700Xs, but if you notice, one of them's missing because I've used it in that build as well. And then additionally to that, I also got a third CPU, which was a Ryzen 5 5600, but that just simply hasn't come in yet. Now right below this, you might see these 2 SSDs. These did not come in this packaging, I just put them in there. But these are WD Black SN850Xs, which if you know anything about this drive, you'll know it's a very high-end Gen 4 NVMe. And they're both 2 terabytes each, and I got them off of eBay. Also off of eBay, I got 3 kits of RAM, which these 2 are 32 gigabytes of 3600 CL16 each. So this is a kit, this is a kit. And then this is 4x8, 32 gigabytes in total of 3600 CL18. So not as fast, but pretty fast as well. And obviously they're all RGB and they're nice looking kits. Finally, before I move on to the graphics cards, which is probably the part you've been waiting for, here's the K5 Pro thermal paste, which I used in this video to repaste my graphics card. But finally, the part that you've probably been waiting for is these two graphics cards. So this one right here is a 3070, and I got this off of eBay for a pretty nice price. Additionally to that, I got an RTX 3080 from eBay, and it's the Asus TUF model. And now I haven't tested these two just yet, but I'm going to do that after this, and hopefully they're not broken. But yeah, this is everything that I've gotten this week, and it isn't even everything, honestly. Like I mentioned, a lot of it's been used already in a build. So yeah, as you can see, I bought a lot of parts, and I'm going to be moving a lot of volume this month, which I'm very excited for, so stay tuned for that. But with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode of the series. Of course, as always, I really appreciate that you made it to the end. If you haven't already seen it and you're interested in seeing the first part of this computer's story, you can go ahead and watch episode 3 right here. And additionally, if you'd like to see more from this series or more from my channel in general, then I'd also appreciate it if you would subscribe. But that's everything I've got for today, so thanks for watching.